Hey guys, my name is Matsumo, and today I want to take a look at a game that I think deserves way more recognition, and that is Squad. This has quickly become one of, if not my favorite FPS multiplayer games that has come out in 2020. Now, admittedly, there isn't a lot of competition in this category. We've seen games like Valorant and the new Call of Duty, and while those games are good in their own right, don't get me wrong, there's something about Squad that I find incredibly satisfying and provides a gameplay experience that you really can't find anywhere else. Now, admittedly, you might be thinking to yourself, wait a second, hasn't Squad been out for years? And technically you would be right. This game, to my understanding, came out in early access in 2015, and it was a completely different game back then. I distinctly remember not enjoying Squad all that much. You would pretty much just be plopped on a gigantic map, you'd have no vehicles and customization, and then you would need to run around for like 20-30 minutes trying to find some action with your squad, and sometimes you would go an entire match with literally not even using your weapon. It wasn't really all that exciting. Needless to say, things have changed pretty dramatically, and I'm really glad that my first impressions of that early access didn't stop me from trying the full release that happened this year, because it's essentially an entirely different game. Now, you might be wondering, okay, all that's great, but what is Squad? I think the best way to describe it is that it is essentially Battlefield, but much more hardcore and on a way larger scale. I cannot emphasize how large some of these maps are. As you guys are seeing here, almost everything out in the distance is a playable area, and you're only seeing like a small portion of it. I'm not even looking to the left and the right. Like, these maps are gigantic. It also shares similar mechanics to Battlefield. You can heal and revive teammates. You can place down ammo crates so they can resupply. You can essentially also have spawn beacons, just like the Recon class. But the thing is, though, is that everything takes a lot longer to perform compared to the Battlefield franchise. For instance, if you are not playing as the medic and you want to revive a teammate that's fallen, you only have a couple of bandages, so you need to make sure you're using them wisely, and it'll take like 30 seconds to actually go through the process. Like, it takes a very, very long time to get someone back up on their feet. Even when you're playing as a medic, it isn't going to be instantaneous. And so the result of this is that the game is much more methodical. If you're expecting to jump on in and play it like Call of Duty or even like Battlefield, where you can run around and lone wolf and take everyone out that you come across, you can be successful in some instances. Like, a good flank is going to be beneficial regardless, but by and large, you want to stick with your squad, hence the name, because teamwork is essential if you actually do want to get the win. Another thing that has been a very pleasant surprise is the variety in the factions. Normally, when you play other games like Battlefield, each team is practically identical. The only real difference is the name. You have the same type of weapons and customization, but that is not the case in Squad. Each faction plays differently. They're going to have different vehicles. They're going to have different optics. Some that you may like, some maybe not. You're going to have different weapons, and this adds to the overall variety of the gameplay. It means that every time that you play on a map, it could be between two different groups, and the experience is going to be different because of that. For example, if you play as the United States, you're going to have some pretty incredible technology at your disposal, helicopters and tanks, while the other team may only have jeeps. Each side has their different strengths and weaknesses, and you're gonna have to account for that if you wanna come out on top. Now, I realize that not everyone may like this because they would rather the two different sides be entirely balanced, and in some cases, it can lead to some problems. I've had games where I felt like I was at a significant disadvantage because of the map layout and the faction that I was playing on, but I think by and large, it just adds in a lot more variety and dynamics that you would not really experience any other way, and I think it just overall enhances the game because of that. Now, one thing I want to hammer home is that Squad is not a fast-paced game. These highlights might give you the impression that action is constant and you're always in the thick of it, but they're highlights. That's not the reality. A lot of times, you're gonna be running around with your squad for a solid 5 to 10 minutes just trying to make your way to the front lines, and you have to be comfortable with that. This is one of the reasons why I highly highly recommend you play squad with some friends. Not only because of the teamwork that comes with that, but also just because you enjoy their company and you're gonna want it because there is going to be some downtime. The thing is, though, is that I feel like that downtime enhances and builds on the highlights that you guys are seeing throughout today's video and makes them even more satisfying. For example, when you know that the enemy is entrenched and you're having a hard time pushing forward, if you and your squad are then able to loop around, get a flank off, wipe them out, and then your entire team is able to flood on in and secure the objective, there's a lot of downtime involved. You and your squad had to spend a good 5 minutes getting that flank off. It was slow, it was methodical, but when you finally got the flank off, it was 100% worth it. And it's the reason why I just cannot stop playing this game. And so I guess the point that I'm trying to make here is that if you ever do want to get started with squad, and I hope that you will, just don't expect it to be action-packed throughout the entire match. You will have those moments, and they'll be amazing when they do occur, but the pace of the game is much slower compared to a lot of other FPS. Now, admittedly, the first time you jump into squad, it's going to be a bit confusing. When you begin a match, you have to bring resources to different parts of the map where you want to create your own base. This isn't like Battlefield, where if you capture an objective, your team can spawn on said objective. You need to bring resources from your base, ammo and supply, to be able to build a base which would allow your and your team to spawn on that. And so you're going to have strategies and different tactics where people are going to be trying to put and set up bases around the map that are close enough to said objective so that you can resupply it and get back in the action quickly, but far enough away where the enemy team can't just come on in and take it out, which is going to put you at a significant disadvantage. On top of that, you also need to manage your resources. Every single time that you spawn in, and this is something that I really struggled with, I just automatically assumed that it would resupply my ammo, and so I would go rounds where halfway through I realized I have nothing left, and I'm like, what's going on? You, as you spawn in, have to then go on over to the big crate of ammo and pick some on up. The thing about it is that that isn't infinite. You have to bring those resources once again from your main base to keep resupplying more and more rounds if your team is constantly using that as a spawn point. And while not everyone will enjoy this aspect of the game because it is tedious, I am someone who doesn't like to drive the transport vehicle back and forth from our base. Other players seem to enjoy that a bit more than I do, but I cannot deny it adds in another layer of strategy and tactics that you have to think about that I have not experienced in any other game before. Another thing that I've been very impressed by is that Squad has somehow managed to add in mechanics that big AAA video games haven't even added. For example, you are able to drag teammates to cover. This was something that Battlefield 5 advertised at launch and never added to the game. I don't know if it was because they just could not figure out how to implement it properly. I don't know if they just simply were not able to do it inside of their engine, but Squad has this. Because it takes so long to revive someone in this game, trying to get someone back up on their feet out in the open is usually not going to end very well. And so having the ability, even though it is a bit wonky at times, to bring them back to cover is kind of incredible. You can also use your teammates to get into positions that normally would not be possible. If they crouch down, you can jump and use them as a boost to get up to higher surfaces, and I love that kind of teamwork. If you see a tank, if you can't do enough damage to take it out outright, I believe if you aim properly, you can go for its treads and immobilize it. They can then repair it to bring it back up and running, but that obviously is going to take a while, and in that time, that will hopefully allow you and your other teammates to get into a better position and take it out. And while Squad is not perfect, it definitely has some glitches and some bugs. I'm not trying to paint this picture like Squad is this paradise where everything is flawless and is doing things that AAA games have attempted but failed at. It is still really impressive that this indie game has been able to succeed and do incredibly well with these kinds of systems where others have definitely fallen short. In general, though, if you can't tell, I love this game. It may be janky, it's definitely an indie game, but if you give it a chance and you delve into its systems, it is highly rewarding. I didn't even talk about the headshots. I play Rainbow Six Siege. The headshots in that game are incredibly satisfying, but they pale in comparison when you're able to take out an entire squad almost by yourself because you're just landing those precise shots at long range. Like it's a blast. Like this game is so much fun. And if you're looking for a more hardcore, essentially Battlefield title on a much larger scale, I highly recommend that you give it a go. But yeah, guys, that is what it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you guys have had a chance to play Squad. Do you guys enjoy it as much as I? Do you have some issues with it? If so, what are they? Give me your guys' thoughts down below. But yeah, guys, until next time, have a good one and take it easy.